Hello viewers, this is something that I feel like GT7 could do a lot more of, and that is have Group 1 races. Group 1 around Interlagos is a combination that seldom ever comes up in Gran Turismo, and when I say Gran Turismo I'm really including Gran Turismo Sport in that as well, going back quite a few years now. This is a combination that doesn't really come up all that much, but when it does I think it produces some pretty good racing, and I was quite happy to jump into this one and give it a go. Group 1 isn't normally sort of one of my favoured categories. I'm not normally the best in these higher downforce cars, but I thought let's jump in and give it a jolly good go. And we're going to start off on the front foot here, down the inside, into turn 4, moving from P13 to P12. And yes, starting 13th on the grid, there's someone off the right hand side there you might have just spotted, so that's another position gained. I didn't qualify for this one, I wanted to start at the back and just see what could happen, see how many positions we can gain from here. Now, in terms of strategy, for this one you had to use the soft tyre and the medium, therefore we would have to do a pit stop in the middle of the race at some point, and I decided to start on the medium, which is normally the thing you do if you're starting towards the back. You start on the worst tyre, and I almost have a big moment there. Well, I do have a big moment, thankfully rescuing it just in time. This guy in front just serving a penalty line here at the start of the straight on the uphill, so it really does kill your momentum quite badly. But that for me is going to be P10. And as we head towards turn 1, we've got a guy right behind, not too far away. I'm not going to go defensive as I don't feel close enough for the move. So we're going to go a little bit deep. This is where my race unravels. As we come through, just on the power a little bit too much. And perhaps in the wrong gear as well, in gear 3, which felt about right, but it didn't look right, especially when you're spinning off. So there's something perhaps to be tweaked there. But what this did in turn was it put me way down the order. You see a big gap now. Look at that guy doing a nice 720 no-scope behind me there on the map. I don't know if you just caught that. Well, we had quite a big gap to try to catch up. 6.8 seconds to the guy in 11th now after that incident. Not ideal. So at the end of that lap, we actually went up to 7.9. So really just not a good lap. One of the worst laps I've ever done, probably. And therefore, really need to get this race going and make sure we started reeling in rather than getting reeled out. Is that a term in motorsport? I don't really know. Anyway, at the end of lap number 3, beginning of 4, the gap came down to 3.9. So I'm beginning to see that this group in front is just fighting. And there's the guy on the right hand side who I would assume had a very similar incident to what I had, losing control. And now we have a visual reference of the cars in front, so 4 or 5 cars there in that group, and thankfully it's always good to have a visual reference of the cars in front. Therefore you can just see what you're trying to catch up with rather than seeing a number on a screen go down. Now this was lap number 5, and you can see I was definitely catching up. There's this group of 5 in front, and I was just getting into the wheel tracks of P10, and this is where you begin to experience one of the key issues, I suppose, with Group 1 machinery, and that really is just the dirty air. And as soon as you get anywhere near, especially through medium and high speed corners, it's very difficult to follow closely. You just get a lot less downforce, a lot less grip, and it does make it quite hard to overtake. There was a car there, spun off on the side, and if you caught that, well, that means I am now back into P10. At the end of lap 6, I didn't really manage to get any closer to this guy, so our pace has kind of balanced out here. I had a nice couple of consistent laps of 20.0, 20.0, 20.1, so fairly consistent, which is not too bad, albeit a little bit off the pace, but not completely disastrous at this point. So quite a few cars going in for their pit stop there at the end of lap 6. We're going to extend our stint to the end of lap 7, and we're going to go for 7 laps on each tyre to balance it out. So now getting really close up behind this guy for P5, we are going to drop some positions when we go for our pit stop at the end of this lap. So carrying a lot of speed into that corner and going actually into the back of him. And actually you see there he was getting a lot of, quite a bit of a gap on the exit of that slow corner. And therefore I was just considering that maybe I was in the wrong gear, not accelerating early enough. So always just analysing what you're doing right or wrong partway through the race. So coming in, changing from the medium over to the soft. I'm going to be rejoining the circuit here. with some traffic. You see that on the right hand side, so we just have to consider that on the exit here. Are we going to be drawing alongside anyone? No, not quite. So we can pull over to the racing line, back over to the right, and I'm in P11. But now is the fun bit, because we have the soft tyre on, the better tyre, and we have, let's say 1, 2, 3, we have 5 cars within reasonable sight here to try to overtake. So let's try and do that. We have half the race left to go, and ample time therefore to try and gain a few positions. The guy in front there getting a half-second penalty, just drifting a little bit wide on the exit of turn 6, which is very easy to do. And then here, this is where I need to try and improve my exit, and I do that by going into the back of the guy in front. But I know that he's got this penalty, so as long as I stay quite close to him, then it should be okay. So on the exit here, I'm going to pull over to the left-hand side. The line is there, just going to serve it, and we move back into P10. So that's good progress so far on that lap. Let's try to reel in this guy in front. I'm going to move up 1 position courtesy of someone in the pit lane, and then we have a yellow flag. Let's see what this is for. Someone just rejoining the track, thankfully did not come out of that ghosting state, and I went right through them. That is P8, and there's always that risk, you know, when someone's ghosted and you think, should I go round them or save the time and go through them and take the risk that they might come out of the ghost. Luckily on that occasion, I think he was going slow enough that he stayed in the ghost state. So it was okay. Now just catching up with these 2 guys in front. P6 is well within sight. And we have the well-known driver, Eggs and Bread. What a name that is. Through the final corner, onto the main straight. Here we go, into the slipstream. Now I'm 0.4 seconds behind here as we go onto the straight, but you see actually the slipstream is quite powerful. So yes, you get the dirty air on the corners, but you do get the slipstream on the straights, which helps. Still 2 tenths behind, but I feel confident. We're going to go for the move, hit the apex, don't overshoot it, and actually I think the other guy was quite accommodating in that move. I think he probably braked a little bit too early, but it all went through quite cleanly, setting our fastest lap of the race there with a 19.7, so a good couple of tenths quicker than on the medium tyres, but we can try and go a little bit quicker than that, I think, as we try to catch up with P6, the best position on the grid. We all know that. First place, I mean, that's so old school. P6 is where it's really at. All the best drivers finish in 6th. I think that's quite abundantly clear from watching videos on this channel. Now anyway, into this slow right-hander. This is probably, yeah, this is a frustrating corner for me. Just the exit really. Never really getting it quite right, although that wasn't too bad. And it looks like some funky alternative lines there taken by the driver in front. We'll try and get a good exit here. Now again, we're 0.4 seconds behind, and if history repeats itself, we might be able to go for a move here, but it's not quite happening. So I'm not sure what that guy on the previous lap did. Maybe missed a shift or something, as I'm not quite gaining as much as I did last time. 19.3, so that's a decent lap there. Chipping away through the centre rest, really carrying a lot of speed through there on this occasion. Now this is definitely an opportunity for a move. He's going to go semi-defensive as we fully tuck into that slipstream. Is he going to go for the defence? No, not quite. You look up the inside, not quite there, but he does end up going a little bit too wide onto the AstroTurf. It's going to slow him down, and we get the move done on the exit. Not really as I'd planned, but sometimes when you sort of half stick your nose up the inside, it does put them off and they have to drive a little bit wider than they'd like. And we get that position into P6, and this was quite an awkward moment here, as the car in front I was catching up with, they serve a penalty here at the end of lap number 12, so only 2 laps to go after this one, and I wasn't sure if they were going to go to the left there, so I decided to jolt to the right, and then they did the same, and I think it's just one of those awkward moments because they slowed down here and let me go. I think we both kind of wanted to do the same thing, as yeah, it's just one of those miscommunications which sometimes happens, and then ultimately let me go anyway, so it was all good. And at the end of the race, finishing in 5th position, which was actually quite a good return, starting from 13th and then having that spin which cost us maybe about 8 seconds. Now, I was trying to beat my qualifying time here, 1:18.1, which wasn't that good. I instantly went to a 17.4, which was okay, and a 17.0. And interestingly, this put me on second on the grid, up against the guy who is #1 in the world. So the guy on pole position is on his alt account, but he set the fastest time in the world. And this is always a good thing, because you can always learn. Even though he pulled away very quickly, as you can see, that was the end of lap 1. He was way quicker than me, but at the pit stops, I think he made a couple of mistakes, a couple of laps in a row. So you can see there, he's just in front of me on the exit of the pits. So he wasn't getting too far away, but I knew that reality was he was a lot quicker than I was. And by the end, the gap was 11 seconds. So I think if he didn't make all those mistakes, he probably could have finished 20 seconds in front of me. Now, the good thing about all of that is you can save the replay of the race, of course, and then jump on board with the aforementioned driver and see exactly what they're doing. So this is always useful. Now, this is the first thing you might notice, is the gear shifting. Now, if you watched my previous video with the classic F1 car, you would have noticed a similar sort of thing going on. So look at this. So he's in sixth gear, coming in, bang, 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 all the way down to gear 1 for the rotation and the engine braking, and then immediately back up into 4th gear, and then running a little bit wide on the exit there, just to really straighten up the car. So I think this car really responds well to being straightened up on the corner exit, so you get that hybrid deployment in a straight line. It really feels like the car accelerates a lot sharper when you do that. And then on the exit of these corners, I was coming out there sometimes in 3rd, and this one I was coming out in 2nd sometimes, and you can see he's opting for 3rd, which seems a lot more stable, and I think you can get on the power a little bit earlier with the less, slightly less torque. And on here, 4th gear, I was never coming out of there in 4th, I was always choosing 3rd. So this is always really good information to look at when you know that there's a very quick driver in the lobby. You can kind of copy them. Now, I tried to copy him on this race, and it was going okay for the first lap, keeping up here with the Swiss driver. And, well, this is a line that's coming up a lot. My race unravelled, and here's where my race unravelled, right here, because I just went a little bit too wide. And met Barrier, Brazilian Barrier, there he is. But what I thought I'd do, I thought I'd improve my 224th in the world on the leaderboard and try to go for 100th in the world, which is a 116.456. So I was trying to get into the top 100, which I think was a reasonable aim, and I think would be quite good for me, given that LMP1 isn't really my strength. And the Ghost that you're seeing in front is a 116.4. 492. So if I were to go quicker than this Ghost, then I'd probably beat the 456, probably. You might be wondering why I didn't just choose the Ghost of a 456, but weirdly on this game, not every entry on the leaderboard has a Ghost that you can actually use. Not many of them do, actually. It's probably only like 5% of the entries that you can actually drive up against as a Ghost, which is quite annoying. Now, on this lap, this showed me that I was losing a lot of time in the second half of the lap rather than the first half. That was a 16.9, so it's only 2/10 off my best lap. But you can see here, just trying to get that better line in 4th gear works a lot better through the center S. You can see there, keeping a nice line, keeping up with the Ghost on this occasion. So that's definitely quite quick. Down the hill, down the Descida de Lago, into turn 4. And just really, that corner is really about committing early and getting on the power early and just maximising the track. And this is a really fun corner in this car. It has so much grip, as you can see, and luckily we're not getting the dirty air from the Ghost, which is always good. Carry a lot of speed in, and this is where I was struggling really, I'd say, from this point onwards in the lap. As you can see there, the Ghost just extending about a 1/10 or 2 on the exit. Likewise for this corner exit, just pulling a little bit. It doesn't look like much, but that is a 1/10 or 2, and that's crucial. We're trying to go for those final few tenths of your lap time. So that was definitely a better lap. You can see the Ghost is closer to me than it was at the end of the previous lap, and I'm nearly 3/10 up on a 0.9, so this is going to be a 0.6 presumably. If we drive to the line, yeah, there we go, 16.681, so not bad. And I was getting better and better each lap. You can see the progression. This is the 3rd lap now, and you can see how much closer I am to the Ghost each time I go through that corner. So I'm just always learning and adapting and trying to improve. This lap unfortunately ended, where did it end? I think it was here. Yeah, I went a little bit wide and just pushing a little bit too much there on that occasion and losing a couple of tenths, and then getting a penalty, which is really frustrating because it was penalty enough to just go wide and lose the time. But anyway, this was another improvement. So at the moment 16.658, we still got improved by 2 tenths to get into the top 100 in the world, so it's not quite happening at the moment. So I was getting fairly consistent, as you can see, through that first center S, but it was the second half of the lap, as I'm saying, that's really where I was struggling. Keeping a decent amount of speed through turn 4 and then up through turn 5. This corner is so fun in this car because the amount of grip is just absolutely ridiculous. I actually made quite a bit of a mistake. I correct mid-corner and it opens up the turn too much and I go too wide. But here, I kind of picked something up there where I just committed to the power really early in 4th gear, and actually I didn't lose too much time to the Ghost. So I'm just bearing that in mind, that actually go in really hard into 4th gear on the power early and actually you can gain a bit of time. That's probably the fastest I took that middle corner. And you can see here on this lap, I kind of messed up a few times, but that's the closest I've been to this Ghost so far. So this might be a very close time indeed. Remember, the Ghost does start in front of me anyway. Going to be a 116.458. That is 0.02 of a second away from the top 100 in the world, which was good, but also quite frustrating because I needed to go 0.02 quicker. Now on this occasion, you see just how quick I was. So I was getting quicker and quicker to the point where, you know, this Ghost is actually starting a 1/10 of a second in front of me. So if I'm level with it, then I've already gained a 1/10 on it. And that's pretty much the case right now. And as we got up the hill, I was 3/4 of a 1/10 ahead of my PB. So I knew that I could definitely go quicker. I knew that I could get at least sort of a low 0.4 or maybe even a 0.3. But until I messed up here, it was quite frustrating. But we're going to go one more time, and this is going to be my best lap. So coming into turn 1, braking just after the 50 board, get it all over the curb into 4th gear, on the power as early as you dare, carry the car wide onto the power, straighten it up as early as possible to get the deployment. And you see I'm already ahead of the Ghost. That's the best I've taken center S so far. Down towards turn 4, braking just before the 50 board, carry the speed in on the power. I've lost a little bit of time to the Ghost, but not a disaster, just a smidgen, to put the technical term on it. Through the fast right-hander of turn 6, that is not too bad at all. Carry the speed in, that's good. This is where we can gain a lot of time. 3rd gear, 4th gear, onto the power as early as I can, and I'm ahead of the Ghost. That's good news. Into this slow right-hander, just need to carry the speed here. Perhaps the minimum speed could have been a bit higher, but still level with the Ghost, which is good. So I'm actually technically faster than the Ghost. Towards the final corner, I've got to get this one right. 3rd gear, then back to 4th on the power before you get to the curb, or when you're on the curb. That is a really good exit, and it's a really good sight when you pull clear of the Ghost on the final corner, knowing that you can't really lose it from there. So ahead of the Ghost, what is the time going to be? It's going to be a 1:16.262, and in the end, I was really happy with that. It put me P6 on my friends list, coincidentally, and it put me 68th in the world, which I was really pleased with. I think that was a good lap in the end. But thank you so much for watching. Get yourself subscribed, and if you haven't seen my Aston Martin video with Nico Hulkenberg, it's on the screen right now. But thank you so much for watching. Have yourself an amazing day. I shall see you next time. Goodbye.